Hey Tarot friends, this is Ultraviolet Morgan, and we're going to do something a little different today. It's kind of a pick a card, but it's more about exploring the card itself than having a specific question. And I really haven't been feeling great, but I want to put something out there today. So this is what I'm working on for today. Also, I kind of wanted to explore my Wildwood Tarot a little bit more. Today's episode is brought to you by Great Value Cream Soda. That's the drink of the day. It's not really brought to you by, I'm not sponsored. It was just fun to say. So, I want to know, is anyone else, see the back of these cards is the tree, like the tree of life in various mythologies, and then the bottom. But a lot of times when I look at it, what it looks like to me is lips. It looks a lot like lips. Does anyone else ever see lips when they look at this deck? Just curious. Let me know down below. Alright, so I've got 3 cards I shuffled and let 3 cards sort of fall out or work their way out. I'm just going to talk in depth a little bit, or I'm going to read some from the book and kind of give my thoughts about them. There's card 1, card 2, and card 3. So it's just going to be a general type of message or informational about the cards. But yeah, go ahead and pick one that can sort of hold on. Yeah, still have some sore throat issues that can sort of apply to you. But I'm hoping with this particular video that you guys will just want to stick around all the way through just to learn more about these 3 cards. So, man, I'm going to try to get through this. Alright, so if you pick card 1, 2, or 3, we'll get started. And before we get started, I want to say I did get tested for COVID, and my test results came back negative. But I do have a little viral thing going on in the sinus area, ear, nose, throat kind of thing. Oh, sorry guys. And before we get into it, I do tarot pick of cards, tarot related content, tarot walkthroughs, tarot discussions. If you're interested in that type of content, please hit the subscribe button and click on the bell to be notified when I post new content. Oh. And of course, if you enjoy, please remember to give a thumbs up, and I look forward to hearing your comments down below. So for those who picked pile number 1, we have the Ace of Vessels. This is a really beautiful card. Instead of our normal cup, we've got this just gorgeous cup-shaped stone that is overflowing with water into the stream. And it's balanced on top of 2 other stones. It's incredible. There's a large tree in the background. We've got a swan, and we've got this, I want to say an elk, maybe? Drinking in the water. And this sort of little boat, leaf-shaped, or boat-shaped leaf, maybe? Also kind of a crescent moon shape, and we can also see the reflection. That's a really just beautiful card in and of itself. We have the Ace of Vessels. Excuse me. Keyword, the waters of life. Now to me that speaks of birth and beginnings and beautiful things. But we're going to check out the book. And first of all, I'm going to look at the suit of vessels. Even now, I know that I have savored the hot taste of life, lifting green cups and gold at the great feast. Just for a small and a forgotten time, I have had full in my eyes from off. My girl, the whitest pouring of eternal light. Bilhana. The position on the wheel for this card is the period from Lammas through autumn equinox to Samhain. So this is the period of time that we are just passing out of, as we just had Samhain, October 31st, generally. The suit of vessels represents the element of water and is associated with emotions, relationships, romance, compassion, forgiveness, instinct, joy, faith, mourning, and being of the heart. We have pictured... Oh, that's the King of Vessels. Sorry, guys. Let me get to the Ace. Ace of Vessels. The water of life. A horned forest deer lowers its regal head to drink from the streams in which floats a swan, together with a tiny boat shaped like a new moon. Okay, I got that partially right. The flow of water from the great stone cauldron enters the stream, which supports both the swan and the moon cup and feeds the deer. The meaning for this card, the waters of life retain the ancient wisdom ready for reawakening. The moonlit pools of the universal soul retains all memory ready to renew the inspired quest. So for those of you who did select this card, I do feel like that's a pretty powerful message right off the bat. The water retaining the ancient wisdom ready for awakening. So I feel like those of you who chose pile number 1 are getting ready for an awakening and a renewal, a soul renewal, in preparation for an inspired quest. It's really beautiful. Okay, reading points. The suit of vessels represents the primal mystery of human emotions, and the ace focuses on the very essence of these powerful yet elusive traits. Since prehistory, emotions have been represented by the element of water, and however far we have evolved, we are still largely ruled by our emotions and instincts. You know, that's a really important point. I was thinking about that in regards to a comment about a character on a show, in a video clip I was watching, where they said that this person was, had no room to talk about someone else being careless because they do many careless things, but in this case, the carelessness costed the first character's son to lose his life. So it's not about, obviously, when we're in mourning and we face the person that we feel is responsible, we don't think to ourselves, gee, have I ever done anything in this type of bad behavior that I'm calling this person out for, and maybe I shouldn't because I've done these things too? No, we don't. Of course we don't. We're going to speak from our heart and from our grief and from our pain, and we're going to call that person all kinds of terrible names, and we're going to accuse them of things that we may have been guilty of in our life. But none of that really matters, because we're not meant to live purely on a intellectual, factual level. We are meant to be in connection with our emotions. And not to be ruled over by our emotions, but not to pretend like that our emotions are less important, I suppose, than rationality that we like to call it. Anyway, let's get back to the book. Guys, I'm so sorry for all of the throat clearing and everything today. So, our powers of reason and intellect and science have given us mastery of the oceans and the skies, but what propels the drive to explore, invent, and build is still human desire and curiosity. Biologists would argue that our emotions are simply a manifestation of the ancient evolutionary process and are governed by the limbic system or mammalian brain. What influences the ancient reptilian brain, on which the mammalian brain sits, has on our emotional reaction is still a mystery. Our emotions need to be harnessed for positive ends, and suppressing our basic emotional needs will lead us to rebel and become detached. This is so factual. So for those who have chosen Pile 1, definitely consider if you are in touch with your emotions, and if you are suppressing them, and because the detachment is real, and it can definitely be a problem. And the rebellion, when we repress our emotions, we don't act more rationally. We act less rationally. We act from those emotions that are given no other outlet, but without understanding. And so, without understanding, we're basically being controlled by those emotions, even though we don't have that awareness of it, that's what's causing our behaviors. And we really don't want to let our emotions run the show, and we really don't want to be left in the dark about our own motivations. So to express our emotions and just sort of let them process and move through us allows us to then be able to make decisions from a clear, rational place. It seems it's a little backwards to the kind of things that, the kind of narrative that we are finding pushed, at this time, that I think more people tend to believe that giving too much time to their emotions will make their emotions control them rather than the other way around. I think that's sort of the mainstream understanding, but it's actually completely backwards to the truth. Excuse me. Where was I? Our emotions need to be harnessed for positive ends, and suppressing our basic emotional needs will lead us to rebel and become detached. Gather your emotional energies and keep them in balance for healthy, creative, and loving interaction with all of nature, including the sometimes irrational and destructive energies of humankind. Oh, okay. That is the message for the Ace of Vessels, Waters of Life. Honestly, I'm going to have to take some time for myself to study that, because I think that is a really important message. Just sort of study a little more in depth, or to just spend some time quietly with those ideas and those thoughts. For those who chose pile number 2, and hopefully everyone is sticking around to just learn more about these cards, we have the Three of Stones, creativity. So now we've moved from the water emotional suit to the stones, which is the physical suit, which has to do with things that have manifested as physical, corporeal, what we think of as real, solid, and so on and so forth. The suit of stones. I learned this at least by my experiment that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with his success unexpected in common hours. That is a quote from Henry David Thoreau. Position on the wheel, period of winter, moving from Samhain through midwinter to Imbolc. So interestingly, so far, card number 1 is kind of, we're fitting right into the past, present, future kind of mold here. So here we're moving into the present, the time that we're in right now. The element of earth, which is associated with achievement, possessions, material security, practical skills, physical abilities, worldly ambitions, and being of the world. All right. And we are dealing now with the 3 of stones, creativity. I just want to touch on the word creativity because I think a lot of times we confuse or conflate creativity with being artistic, which art is creative, but creativity is not limited to art, and creativity also includes creation, and even procreation. To create. Creativity means to create. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, to quote from the Bible. Creativity is about making something new, whether it's physical, and see how here we're talking about physical creativity. We're not talking about mental creativity. We're not talking about creative thinking. We're talking about creative doing, creating something that you can touch, something tangible. A huge trilithon stands amid bushes and rocks. On the left-hand pillar is a great aurochs from the painted cave of France, Aurochs. On the right is an ancient horse known as Przewalski. Sorry, I'm not familiar. Standing between the stones, one hand on each, is a green woman, from whose feet roots of energy spread out as she draws upon the energy of the stones and the earth. An artist listens to the inner voice and hears the wind song of the universe. This is the meaning of the card now. The courage, freedom, and skill that allows the artist to meditate, to mediate this energy, must be refined and focused for effective and meaningful achievement. Reading points for this card. The practical manifestation of creative energy requires a clear and open channel to the inspirational forces and impulses of the universe. Allowing this energy to flow through you is a rich and rewarding gift in itself. Just as releasing your dreams and desires into the universal consciousness always brings a response, so the releasing of creative energy invites into the artist the healing and enriching fuel from which further insight and visionary stimulus flows. This emotional and spiritual relationship with divine inspiration allows the subconscious mind to delve deeply and summon the intuitively creative power that actualizes work. Artistic beauty takes many forms and presents itself in a variety of ways, but the relationship with the subconscious formative energy, whether through music, painting, sculpture, or poetry, reminds us of the personal and intimate connection we all share with the universal consciousness. Now, this card particularly reminds me of the way that I think about the suits, where the fire and wand energy is sort of the inspiration, the sort of spiritual inspiration that comes from outside of us, and then into the swords of the mind and thought, where that inspiration becomes a thought, becomes more clear. We clarify it in our thoughts, and then we bring it down into our emotions. And once we engage with our thoughts, we make plans. With our emotions, we create motivation and passion towards the thing, that we desire. And then down into the stones, where we make it physically, tangibly real. I don't want to use the word real because I think all the levels are real, but corporeal, material. We bring our inspirations, thoughts, and emotions all together to create something that can be touched and seen and heard and felt and experienced with our senses and shared with others who also can experience it with their senses. So that's kind of a little bit more the meaning of creativity rather than just sort of an airy-fairy. I think that creativity is just often thought of as a mental process, and the Three of Stones really represents it as something coming into material being. So for those who chose card number 3, we have number 20, the Great Bear. Number 20, so obviously we're talking about the major arcana, and number 20 is generally the final judgment, or the judgment card. So with the card being the Great Bear, I'm going to have to say that I'm quite interested to find out what we have to say about the Great Bear and how this has to do with our usual understanding of the number 20 card in the tarot. If I can get that far in the book, I'm having a hard time turning my pages. So, 20, the Great Bear. Position on the wheel. The bear is placed at the winter solstice on the 21st of December. Its element is earth and is associated with the dark sun, the gateway of the dead and their rebirth, and the still point of renewal and healing. Description of this card: between two yew trees lies an ancient burial mound of the kind known as a passing grave. Upon this a polar bear crouches, keeping watch. The initiate has been laid to rest, covered by earth and stone, and now awaits to be reborn, guarded by the shamanic sentinel of the mound. The traditional religious and political concepts of right and wrong, guilt and innocence have no place here, for the judgment that takes place during the time of rebirth is both inward and mystical, and yet outward and universal, reaching far beyond the narrow confines of human civilization and conventions. The constellation of the Great Bear stands out in the sky, indicating the entrance to the other world, in which the seeker proceeds. Wow. Meaning: fear of death and damnation have mutated into a distorted view of the card known traditionally as judgment, as a calling of righteous souls from their graves by the angel on Judgment Day. But the universe is much simpler than religious theologians would have it. The laws of the evolution and cause and effect have more to do with divine judgment than human morals. If on a personal level life is squandered in the pursuit of vainglories and pretentious ambition, the painful void left within an individual's soul will make itself known through despair and frustration. On the earthly or personal sphere, if we abuse the ecosystem and lay waste to the world's resources, nature will find a way to redress the balance by its own evolutionary means. Nature is not vindictive, just practical. By the same token, if time is spent educating and understanding ourselves, this investment in wisdom will help us live our lives with a deeper respect for all humanity and nature. Life will be enriched by the joy and beauty of the universe. The Great Bear is the guardian of the forest ways and holds the power of life and death over those who transgress its laws. After experiencing the stages of being stripped and laid bare, the initiate experiences reward strength and wisdom, and is reborn into a place of quiet stillness, peace, and rest that allows the healing process to be completed. The new whole reconstituted person lies hibernating, full of potential, ready to meet the coming spring with energy and joy. I love that. That's beautiful. I just need a drink. I could probably say a little more on that, but I feel like my voice is so close to giving out. I'm just going to finish up. Reading points. The only thing in life that is assured is that if you wait long enough, it will change. How you survive that change and who you are after is up to you. The major element in this process is judgment of yourself and others. This may relate to an assessment regarding a personal matter or situation and could be linked to the process of forgiving. It may also relate to a group of social decisions. In the process of judgment, both as an individual and on the universal level, honesty is the key. Be honest, be forgiving, be patient, but most of all, be assured change is at hand. Remember, the universe has a long memory. Nothing is ever forgotten. Roots and branches for this card. Renewal, universal mind, inescapable truth, the even hand, cosmic law, reincarnation, the sleep of the just, karma, nothing is forgotten, the cage of guilt, reaping what has been sown, and the divinity of forgiving. So there it is. The three cards for today taken together is a really beautiful message, I think, of sort of an initiation into a new era, which I think really what represents really well what's happening right now as we're on the eve of having some election results in the United States. And I know the rest of the world is kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with us as well. Or at least a lot of them are. And I think this really gives a positive message going forward that we are about to experience something new. And that we should kind of look back and not forget the past, but be ready and willing to move forward. Because I think that's really what the cosmic clock is saying, what time it is. So thank you for joining me, everyone. Please spend some time thinking about these cards and their messages, and come back and see me again soon. Until we meet again, be well, and thank you for joining me today. Have a great rest of your day, and again, be well.